Right, so we're back for another episode of the Conversations with Quuu podcast.
Hello.
That's Dan.
That's Matt.
Hi.
Hello.
And today we are going to be discussing a tweet that Dan actually shared with me in our Slack a few weeks ago. Yeah. And I sort of saved it because I was like, this is a lot to unravel in this tweet. And it was actually from David Senra from the Founders podcast, which you should check out.
Yep.
And it's like a lessons Steve Jobs wanted to pass on sort of tweet, quite long form one. It broken down into about 10 parts, maybe even more.
Yeah, it's really his mantra on like running a company and what that means to him. Yeah.
I will put the link in the description if you want to check out the tweet and read it, but we'll sort of address some of it in the podcast and then discuss sort of what that means to us and
how we differ.
Yeah,
slightly,
because there definitely will be.
Yeah,
and actually that's probably a good point to start on. Actually, is our working dynamic. What like how we sort of gel and knit together as a duo.
Yep.
Because I think it's quite rare. I mean, I think getting on with people generally, the odds are stacked against you. We sort of started working together because we worked well as a sort of duo on people per hour, and that was cool. But I think our strong point is that even though we do have opposing opinions of certain things, we're both capable of arguing each other's sides just to reach the best possible solution. Like, we only care, not about being right, but about reaching the right conclusion for whatever we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And we both naturally have that tendency. There's no ego. We're not trying to be like, if all 10 of your initial ideas were the 10 ideas that we stuck with in a business, I wouldn't mind as long as they were right, because I'd be like, oh, cool, that's great.
I think it really helps we get on so well, not only because we just obviously gel and understand each other's personalities well, but also we come from we've got different backgrounds, different expertise.
Yeah.
So like if we were both developers, for example.
Yeah, might clash more.
We might get into a point where no, we should do it like this, but we might clash more. I don't know that for certain, but I think that's just how we work really well together. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have complementary skills that the others don't. That each of us doesn't. I can't talk today.
Yeah, we know what you mean.
Yeah. And so I think that helps. But anyway, that was a sort of bit of a side track thing. But yeah. So anyway, this tweet starts off saying, lessons Steve Jobs wanted to pass on, written before he died, in his own words, and starts off with one on building a real company.
And what that means, yeah.
What that means. And I'll read this first part. It says, I hate it when people call themselves entrepreneurs, in inverted commas, when what they are really trying to do is launch a startup and then sell or go public so they can cash in and move on.
Which, let's be fair, that's majority of startup founders.
That's me.
That's us.
I mean, like, there's the whole like jokey mantra that you always hear, especially in season 1 of Silicon Valley, the show on HBO. Brilliant show. Yeah. If like you haven't seen it, I think you can only get it on Apple TV now. Could be wrong, but
it's worth purchasing.
But it's worth purchasing and it's worth watching. We might even do a podcast entirely on Silicon Valley, to be honest, because there's a lot to unpack in that, and it's fun.
Yeah.
But like they always like take the piss basically out of startup founders, always saying that they just want to make the world a better place, and like through decentralized like finance and this, that, and the other, through like algorithms, like lossless compression and whatever it may be. It always just is like a platitudinous thing thrown into every business plan. Like, we want to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably my interpretation of what Steve Jobs says here, is that like he thinks that real entrepreneurs are people who do want to contribute positively to the world.
Yeah. Elon Musk style.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah, sure. So he is what you would say is a true entrepreneur.
His whole a sort of, if you needed to put his entire company, all his companies into one little ball or bubble, you would say everything he's trying to do across all those different companies is trying to help mankind now and in the future in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So I think that is his driving force. It's not about making money, even though he is now, one of the richest people in the world.
That's a byproduct.
Yeah. It'd be nice to be in that position where.
Do you think that there's in that sense? Then, do you think that there's no amount of money someone could have offered him for SpaceX or Tesla at any point that he would have accepted?
Yes, I think so, because I think he changed after PayPal. So yeah, he sold PayPal, I think, to eBay. I think it was 300 million or something. He ended up going buying that McLaren that he got delivered. There's a famous video on YouTube.
Yeah.
But then I think it all became clear to him that he wanted to help mankind in some way. So this takes us back to that original section 1 in that tweet where he talks about wanting to build a real company, one that will change the world or help it in some way, shape or form now and way
deliver
into the
internet to places far-flung,
even
places
after they're dead,
underprivileged and like poor and disconnected from the world.
Yeah, like the internet.
Improve infrastructure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that he's trying to do.
Yeah, and I think as it's almost like not fair, that bit where he says about entrepreneurs aren't real entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
unless they want to change the world, because I don't think we're all in that position initially, at least, in order to be able to do that type of thing, to change the world to such a degree, or to create a company like flipping Apple, which has obviously been around for a long time now. I mean, to make an Apple nowadays, that's got to be hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's got to be hard.
Yeah.
And if you were in that mindset, like, I want to change the world and create a phone or a phone company, is that really going to change the world nowadays? Probably not.
It's so hard to see what the next behemoth is going to be out of nowhere. Like a Facebook.
AI, obviously.
Yeah. Well, sure. But like, it's open to so many people. But we don't know yet. And maybe that's the job of the real entrepreneur, the person that has the vision beyond what we can, leveraging what's available to us. This is someone that can conceive of something completely unimaginable completely outside of the normal bubble that most people are thinking. But also with this sort of betterment of mankind, betterment of the world, driving thing. But I don't know if that's what I see an entrepreneur as being. I think that's just a different level of entrepreneurship, and like I think that's a very enterprising person that wants to sell their company. They're someone that wants to take matters into their own hands, control their own time, their own company. I think that if you're that sort of person that wants to be their own boss and wants to control things and not just their financial freedom, but like the actual runnings of the company, then I would say that you could consider yourself an entrepreneur personally. And, that might incorporate the plan to start a company and sell it, which is certainly our combined vision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And obviously we're helping people every day.
Make the world a better place.
It might not be making the world a better place, or
I think we are.
We're not curing cancer with our social media content, but we are helping businesses
through uber personalized bespoke AI, merging thousands of prompts.
Do you know what would be really interesting is actually to go back in time and show this to Steve Jobs the day he created Apple in the garage, and see if he had the same mindset back then as he did the day he died, when obviously by then he'd made a $2 trillion company or whatever it is.
I think I'd be too scared to show him anything. I think he'd annihilate me.
But would he have the same mindset in that he's an entrepreneur because he's going to create computers that are going to change the world? Would he have the same? Maybe he would. Maybe, I don't know. Different time.
I'm not sure.
No.
So the second part of this is on taste over market research.
This is a hard one.
This is a tricky one. So it says, some people say, give the customers what they want, but that's not my approach. Our job is to figure out what they're going to want before they do. So Henry Ford once said, if I'd asked customers what they wanted, they would have told me a faster horse. People don't want what they want until you show it to them. That's why I never rely on market research. Our task is to read things that are not yet on the page. And that goes back to what we were just saying. They're thinking on a different plane, totally different plane. And I think largely this is a sort of, I don't want to sound too grandiose with this, but I think this is something that Growth Panels suffers from. People need Growth Panels, this other startup that we launched, but it's just a little bit slow to take off, really, isn't it? Like, it's doing well.
People just understand.
It's doing well by startup standards. We've definitely had like people getting on using it, and we use it for our own companies, but it's going to be
very successfully.
Massive, very successfully. It's generating loads of marketing content for us completely organically. It's our own company, so we don't have to pay for it, but it's good value, I would say. But a lot of people don't get it because they've not seen it in action. They don't know they need it.
Yeah.
But we are the perfect user for it as a software business owner.
Yeah. and it's really strange. So we thought,
it works.
Yeah, so we we got on the phone, we talked about this idea, we think, oh, this is obviously a no-brainer. Everyone's gonna love it. So we obviously implemented it for ourselves, and we were seeing all this stuff coming through. And then, despite our audience on all these social networks, Twitter, etc., being the same as us, SaaS founders, marketers, we were met with, well, what is it? What can I do with it? Is it an affiliate program?
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not. It's all this other. And it's for some reason we just can't get the point across
because it didn't fit into the box of things that already exist that people understand. But I do think that we're showing them what they need before they even know that it's there.
Yeah.
And I think that it just needs a little bit more time for us to demonstrate it, gather all of this proof, and then put it together in a nice package that demonstrates it better, rather than just showing them a concept. But I don't want to make this about sort of self-promotion of our own things, but this is
an example.
It's a good example that when I was reading it through the first time, it occurred to me, I was like, oh yeah, this is very much the case. Like
maybe.
Yeah, so maybe we are real, true entrepreneurs.
I like that. It's just a really shit product that we don't realise.
Possibly,
but I just don't
possibly it's a really shit product, but I don't think it is, because we're the perfect user for it. Yeah. There are a lot of people like us running startups, software businesses, and it works for us so well that I would never not have it on anything.
Yeah.
It's generating organic traffic and marketing content in whatever capacity we want it to be: blogs, videos, testimonials, reviews on sites, followers on Twitter. It's great. Anyway, I do agree with Henry Ford there, and I agree with Steve Jobs.
So sort of think about that if you're coming up with an idea for a startup. Don't worry that it's out there or whatever. Yeah, should try and.
You need to know that it is right for whoever you intend for it to be for. Like, again, it always comes back when planning in the early stages to put yourself in the shoes of the person that you're actually targeting. And it helps if you are that person, because if you would use it, other people will use it, unless you've just not seen something that everyone else seems to instantly get. And that's unlikely. It might just be that you need to work really hard to demonstrate what it does. And then once people have seen it, you've got something incredible in your hands, which is completely unique.
Actually, a more recent product that keeps coming up are these AI pins or pendants. And most people just think that's going to be like a fad and go away.
People are laughing it off.
Yeah, but maybe that is a glimpse into the future, and we're just not ready for it yet. And then one day we'll look back and say, well, why didn't everyone have a pendant or a camera that records everything?
Can't believe I have to go onto my computer to use ChatGPT.
Why isn't it connected to my brain? Can't believe you used to type stuff in, man.
I mean, I think a good example of that is the use of things like Siri and I don't want to say it because there's one in here, but Alexa and things like that. Where even now, after them being around for years and years, it's quite polarized, almost like a Marmite branding situation. People either love it or hate it. some people are like, it's just Siri's completely useless. I never use it for anything. Like, I don't know why it's even still there.
Which is true.
For you, I use it loads, and I use Alexa even more. I use it for all sorts. If I'm cooking, I'll set like multiple timers. I'll be like, Alexa, like set a 10-minute timer for the broccoli. Yeah. Alexa, set a 15-minute timer for the potatoes, and then I can say like, how long's my potato timer got left, and they'll be like that. And I use it for like, what's the weather going to be like in the morning when I'm playing golf, and it will like look at my calendar. It knows I'm playing golf at X place and tell me.
Yeah.
These are things that I take for granted now, which in the past would have been a ball ache, and having to get my phone out is annoying, and I just do it when I wake up.
Yeah.
But why not have it here? I think it's one of those things that's polarizing. It depends on your lifestyle, how you use it, but eventually everyone will just be like, that's a normal thing.
Like a phone probably, that was back in the day, who would have thought you'd need a phone with you all the time?
I know. I mean, again, there was a long period of time where people were like, you don't need one of these modern phones with music on. Why do you need music on your phone? Ridiculous. Yeah. And now it's like, well, I'm not going to get that phone. It hasn't even got, you can't even get music on it. Can't even get 10,000 songs on that. That's rubbish.
Yeah. And now the phone, it's like, another phone app is the least used app, probably.
What, the music?
No, the phone app.
Oh, the phone app itself. Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, true.
I don't even answer my phone.
So things move on and things morph and stuff, but like, don't be put off by the fact that it's not a completely pre-existing known concept.
Yeah, proven or anything.
If you're an entrepreneur and this is something that you think is useful, test it a bit with the right person and then believe in it and just demonstrate it to people, but you're gonna have to have patience.
Yeah.
And loads of people are just going to tell you it's rubbish. We've had people literally look at stuff that we've done and say, oh yeah, that looks amazing, but I probably wouldn't start using it until more people that are famous use it.
Yep.
Literally, that's almost verbatim. Like, it's paraphrasing, but it's almost verbatim what people have said to
someone
us.
Someone said that,
yeah. And I that's just a laughable thing for me. Like, what sheepish behaviour. And I don't mean sheepish as in like coy, I mean you're behaving like a sheep, following the herd.
Yeah, use your own brain.
I hate that. I hate it at like airports when people will get in one queue when there's like 3 empty ones and they just want to follow the person in front.
That's very British.
I'm always the person that will just start in a different queue and I'm like,
and then everyone follows you.
And everyone follows.
Yeah.
Like, I hate that. Yeah. Anyway, slightly tangential.
Yeah, they would.
Right, the third point of this tweet was on combining ideas from different fields. Edwin Land of Polaroid talked about the intersection of the humanities and science. I like that intersection. There's something magical about that place. There are lots of people innovating, and that's not the main distinction of my career. The reason Apple resonates with people is that there's a deep current of humanity in our innovation. I think great artists and great engineers are similar in that they both have a desire to express themselves. In fact, some of the best people working on the original Mac were poets and musicians on the side. In the 70s, computers became a way for people to express their creativity. Great artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo were also great at science. Michelangelo knew a lot about how to quarry stone, not just how to be a sculptor.
Yeah, so this is the idea of bringing design and engineering together, isn't it?
Mm.
And making beautiful products, basically, that stand out above the rest.
Yeah, putting the emphasis on completely different areas to what you'd intuitively think should be at the front and centre.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is exactly what Apple did perfectly. I can't, my phone's up there filming now, but like, if I hold my iPhone now when it's not in a case, I hate cases.
It's just beautiful.
They do serve a purpose, but like, it's it's lovely. It feels like cold to hold, and it's shiny, it's tactile, it feels nice, and it's like perfect, like bezels.
Everything about it, yeah.
It's a work of art, and it's just great tech as well.
Yeah, and back in the day when it first launched, it was only Apple going that far with design. Like even the box, opening the box experience, it was only Apple.
Yeah.
But now everyone does it.
Yeah.
It's like they've set the standard, now everyone has to try to match it.
You and I, when we used to open an Apple thing, we used to like, well, we still do actually, like still jump on a call together, look at it, like, oh, smell the box, what does it smell like?
It's pretty sad.
Yeah, it is pretty sad, but I just, it's good.
I'm
peeling off the thing.
It's just part of the experience.
It's an experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's interesting. Is there anything else to say on that point, really?
I think it was
both agree.
literally,
Both agree with him there, fully.
I don't know if it come up with any more examples of how you could take
Merge the two.
Yeah, like how can you do it? But yeah,
I think we see it everywhere around us in successful products and services, but that's just so subtly brought together. You don't even realise what's gone into it behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's like a seamless thing, isn't it, really? You don't know why you like something more, but often it will be because it appeals to like different sort of parts of your character.
Yeah.
On knowing, so the next part is on knowing why your customers pay you. This is an interesting one. This is quite a topical one for us, really, around the recent launch of Quuu. So people pay us to integrate things for them because they don't have the time to think about this stuff 24/7. I'll come back to that because it's a really interesting point. If you have an extreme passion for producing great products, it pushes you to be integrated, to connect your hardware and your software and content management. You want to break new ground, so you have to do it yourself. Yeah, I mean, I from this, I take from it like how we first came up with Quuu from necessity. Like it didn't exist what we wanted it for, to essentially save time finding actually quite reliable content to share on behalf of brands on their social media.
Yeah.
But we knew we had to be doing it. But it was taking about an hour and a half in the mornings, and what we came up with saved loads of time, introduced us to content that we would have never found otherwise, and managed to like distribute it all seamlessly in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
Not even that.
Career socials, generate leads,
Excuse me.
business money. So it was great, and that's obviously why people
You build from necessity.
ended up paying us. Yeah.
But like so many people will think of something like that, but if they don't have that entrepreneurial mindset to actually go and take that thought a little bit further,
Yeah,
grow it out,
business.
expand it, then you won't get anything. Like a little bit like with my first business, Poker Face PR, that popped into my head because my mum forced it out of my head. She was like, well, what else are you good at? And sort of came up with a whole concept that poker players have big egos, deep pockets, and they could use a PR service. I didn't actually know how that looked because there was only one company in the world doing it, and I didn't even know they existed until after I launched, really.
Started looking into it, yeah.
But I just decided to go and make it so and make it happen, upon which lots of For Dummies books were bought in order to make it work. But yeah,
HTML for Dummies, I think you've still got that on your shelf, haven't you?
I do, yeah, I kept it because, got it. But it's just one of those things where like a lot of people would have thought of that idea, but taking it that step further and doing it is another matter. And people pay us, what he says in that first sentence, people pay us to integrate things for them because they don't have the time to think about this stuff 24/7. That's something that we could all, as entrepreneurs and founders, do well to remember. Like, yeah, like for us, it might seem like it's not worthwhile any of these business ideas because you know that you could go and do it yourself quite easily, and so other people could too, but other people won't. Other people have different priorities, they've got different things going on in their lives, and they don't have the same skill set as you, or they don't even have the same attitude to get up and go and do it for themselves. They just want someone else to do it for them, and they're happy to pay for that.
Yep.
There are a lot of people in the world, and there's certainly enough people, even in very, very niche niches, that will pay you quite good money.
Yep, 100%.
So I thought that was a really interesting one. So part 5, on what happens when you shift the focus from great products to more sales.
It's funny why he talks about Microsoft here.
Yeah, I have my own theory about why decline happens at companies like IBM or Microsoft.
Windows.
Yeah, the company does a great job, innovates and becomes a monopoly or close to it in some field, and then the quality of the product becomes less important. Yeah, the company starts valuing the great salesman because they're the ones who can move the needle on the revenues, not the product engineers and designers. So the salespeople end up running the company. John Akers at IBM was a smart, eloquent, fantastic salesperson, but he didn't know anything about product. The same thing happened at Xerox. when the sales guys run the company, the product guys don't matter so much, and a lot of them just turn off.
Yeah, and you definitely saw that with Microsoft. With all the crappy laptops coming out, it was just
It's just still the case.
It's still the case, yeah. Just
Still
those
is.
little cheapy, crappy laptops.
We've owned a few PCs over the last 10 years for some extra reasons beyond work, but like they're rubbish.
Yeah, and even really good ones.
Even the best ones, even ones that cost $4,000 and have dual screens. They're made like top spec. You can game the hell out of them. Use them for running like really like heavy scripts and stuff. They don't perform anywhere near as well as the most basic MacBooks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's embarrassing. I actually feel so sorry for people when I see them using it. I'm like, oh my god.
Well, some people still swear by it. They love it. They hate Macs. So
It's like when I go to a restaurant though, and I just see like people just eating like the most like just choose the soup, and they've got like so many options there. I'm like, so many things.
it's like
there
when you go
that
to a
could be
restaurant.
happening.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, says the guy who always chooses the burger, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, I
That's
mean, like,
a
you
nice
go to like a
restaurant.
really fancy restaurant,
Yeah.
and then it's just like soup. It's like, nah,
I don't go to fancy restaurants.
because we need to sell you.
Yeah. McDonald's.
Um,
I'll do.
I've forgotten what my initial point was, but I'm sure it was a really interesting one.
It was really.
Don't forget to
interesting.
like and subscribe.
Yeah.
It's part 6 on great products being the foundation of an enduring company. So yeah, my passion has been to build an enduring company where people were motivated to make great products. Everything else was secondary. Sure, it was great to make a profit because that was what allowed you to make great products. But the products, not the profits, were the motivation. Schooley flipped these priorities to where the goal was to make money. It's a subtle difference, but it ends up meaning everything. The people you hire, who gets promoted, what you discuss in meetings. Yeah.
Well, yeah. When money is the bottom line, that's all that matters. So then you obviously start using cheaper parts, and you pay your product people less than your salespeople, and you end up going down the wrong direction. So I think that's obviously what he's kept going with Apple and why the product is focused. I suppose it helps when you've only got like so many products available on your line, whereas Microsoft are just.
Yeah, I think Apple have specialised a lot more. Certainly when he was there, they were way more specialised on like the consumer front, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think how this applies really in like the sort of software world.
Yeah, I mean, early on startups. I mean, I don't think you'd even be thinking about building a foundation of enduring company. Maybe you're thinking a couple of years into the future where you're going to be on X MRR, or you've got a team of like 5, 6. Are you really thinking that big? Unless you're going to go and get 100 million in funding or something, you're going to be quite small.
Yeah.
To start with. So yeah, just build something people want and need that they're willing to pay for, and grow from there, and keep those people wanting to pay you. If you can do that, you'll build a good business.
I guess the way this relates in software is going to be not to bootstrap companies, because you can't possibly not watch the profits.
That's true.
You can't have like a freemium model for 5 years just to rack up an insane level of growth for people just using it for free and then switch it on and go, or sell it to someone that can then monetize it and make loads of money. Unless you've got very deep pockets in the form of funding or
it's just a side
your own
project.
independent wealth.
Yeah, you could be working full time and maybe doing it that way,
But yeah, you'll be incurring server costs and support software costs and this, that, and the other. But again, like, if you're a sort of entrepreneurial in the sense that Steve Jobs is saying, then that's not your main focus. Your main focus is to just build something great that will help people.
Which is funny because that goes against the whole startup world at the moment, which is
completely. That's why I think this whole thread is interesting.
Yeah, build something cheaply and as quickly as possible Get people to pay you for something as early as possible, which is the complete opposite of what Steve is saying in this tweet.
Yeah, I think it's a nice. I think it's a nice vision, and if you can do it, then great.
Yeah.
But it's not as satisfying to me as like, God, this makes me sound shallow. It's not as satisfying to me as launching something and immediately seeing money notifications from Stripe pinging into Slack channel. Like,
well, I think that's the majority of startup entrepreneurs now are like that. They'd rather launch something, see people actually getting value and get the money. Yeah, I think that's a go for most people nowadays.
Yeah. So I don't know if I agree with it. I agree with him, but I think it's very idealized and it's easy for him to sit there having had huge success, like spouting a lot of these like sort of statements. I think most of them are spot on, but I think sometimes it's a bit like this just makes people who are budding entrepreneurs or startup founders feel a bit like, or maybe go down the wrong line. I would say get money up front for as much as you can. Or, you might have a hybrid model like we had with Quuu, where we didn't try and monetize Quuu for a long time. We just wanted it to grow and have as many users as possible to justify the eventual fee that we would charge on Quuu Promote, charging people to advertise their content, which would be justified by the number of people on Quuu for free sharing it. That was a clever marketplace and that worked.
So we knew that up front.
But we knew that up front, and it's also quite a unique structure for a company.
Yeah.
So I think there are caveats, but I probably don't fully agree with him on that. But
it obviously depends on the product you're building.
It does.
Software maybe.
I think if you can afford to just like only focus on the product and not on the profit, then great, good for you. But it's hard to be in that position. Right. Actually, there is one more point to make on that, is that if you can prove that even over a short period of time, like 2 or 3 months, that it's growing and you haven't even bothered about focusing on the profiteering side of things, then you can take that track record of 3 months of growth, which you'll have found it easier not charging people because you're purely left with what do people think of the service. And you can take that to a VC or an angel investor or incubator or something, and you can get their support. So that is probably a good argument for doing that on at least a short-term basis if you can sort of stomach that, take the hit.
Yeah.
So 7, on being honest and direct with your team, which I hear he was very direct with his team. I don't think I run roughshod over people, but if something sucks, I tell people to their face. It's my job to be honest. It's his name, in fact. I know what I'm talking about, and I usually turn out to be right. That's the culture I tried to create. We are brutally honest with each other, and anyone can tell me they think I am full of shit, and I can tell them the same. But they'll get fired. That's not what he said. And we've had some rip-roaring arguments where we're yelling at each other, and it's some of the best times I've ever had. I feel totally comfortable saying, Ron, that store looks like shit, in front of everyone else. Or I might say, God, we really fucked up on the engineering on this, in front of the person that's responsible. That's the ante for being in the room. You've got to be able to be super honest. I mean, I like that, but like that's not going to wash in today's society.
No, I think there needs to be, it's almost to that level, but there is a line.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to feel bad, but I do want them to know when they fucked up and be responsible and be accountable for it. Yeah. And I would like to think that in that scenario, I would give them a way to save face, make things better and learn from it.
Yeah, ultimately you got to remember that everyone's in the same boat. But then that one person went and threw like a cannonball in the air and it put a hole in the boat. You're going to be a little bit pissed off with them.
Yeah, and ultimately as a manager, it's your job to manage your emotional reaction. You need the best output, right, from your team.
Yep.
And I think there's a time and a place for naming and shaming people. And I think that it's probably when they've had plenty of warning before and they're on their last thing, and you don't want other people to feel like you can just, it's okay to do this. There needs to still be responsibility and standards, not at the expense of being woke. I know I'm going to probably get hated on for saying that.
Yep.
I even feel saying the word woke that I'm inciting some sort of hateful language, and that I'm being negative. I'm not. I'm a very sensitive guy, but like I do think that being almost like managerially constipated by wokeness, like to the point where you just can't let anything flow, is damaging.
It is, yeah.
To a company. And I've never used the word constipate in a business sense.
Well, I think if I put myself back into a work situation where I'm obviously not, part manager, co-manager, I think I'd rather the person tell me where I was going wrong or what I just did wrong, so you can learn from it and you can then not do that again and you can improve. So then you learn from experience.
And I know that you honestly do believe that.
Yeah. So I think that if we had to take what Steve was saying in this post, I think me and you are very much like that.
We're quite forthright with one another.
To each other in any way, it doesn't matter. And we're not going to take it to heart or anything. We know that it's hopefully for the better of the business. So we would say.
Yeah.
But if it was our team, we may have a little word, but privately we wouldn't, like Steve, and he would do it in the middle of the room. We would not do that.
Yeah, I think there's select times where I would do it.
It depends on the mood.
I'm the manager, so
yeah. But ultimately, you need to be.
Don't sue me.
Everything needs to be to the benefit of the company.
Speak to HR. I'm HR.
Yeah.
So, what's your problem?
HR out.
Tell me. Talk to me.
Yeah. Anyway,
shoot. All right. Hey, on keeping the team excellent.
This is pretty much a carry on.
It is, yeah. I mean, should we?
Well, it's talking about firing people, and it's just we've done a few times in the past, and obviously it's never easy. But ultimately, it's for the products, the company's benefit plus the person's benefit.
Well, I mean, it always comes back to it's business. It's not personal. It's business.
Exactly.
Everyone that we've hired has been a nice person in the interview. They've come across as being great. When we've worked with them, they've been lovely. There's been a couple of exceptions. We've had some people that have lasted less than a few days, and it's because they've somehow managed to dupe us throughout the interview process, come in late, made mistakes, and then been really disrespectful and rude. And it's just fuck off.
Yeah, there's no
you're fired.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure everyone knows that's not okay. And yeah.
Well, it's not fair on the rest of the
It's not
team.
bullying behaviour, but how can you work or give any leeway to that?
Yeah.
It's not good for the company, and this isn't a charity or a care home.
Yeah, and
this is a business.
And as a small business,
and,
we are small in comparison to Apple, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The pennies count even more.
Mm-hmm.
So when you've got someone taking the mick, then you've got to do what's best for the business. Ultimately, someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
Like Matt said, it's not personal, but there is a personal side to it because it's for the benefit of the business.
Of course, there is.
That's our livelihood. So
that's difficult. I mean, but running a business is not supposed to be easy. You're going to have these difficult scenarios if you're thinking of going into it. Be prepared that you're going to have to fire people that you might consider your friend, and you might start the business thinking, nah, I'm going to be Michael Scott. Everyone's going to love me. I'm going to love them. They're all going to want to come for cocktails with me after work. We're all going to dress up and have fun and hold hands and skip down the road into the sunset. And then someday they're going to just repeatedly screw up, and you'll have to fire them.
Yeah, and it's harder when you're their friend.
So you do have to be prepared for that.
Have some sort of barrier.
Have a plan for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As much as you don't want to, as much as your human nature just wants to be friends with everybody.
It doesn't mean you have to be nasty to them or alienate them or isolate them or be quiet and aloof and
But there needs to be a line.
But there has to be a line so that they understand that and respect it, and that you can give them honest, objective feedback when the time comes without having to sugarcoat it and tiptoe around it and be all airy-fairy about it.
Yeah. It's never easy.
No. So 9, on taking advantage of the great work that was created before you. So what drove me? I think most creative people want to express appreciation for being able to take advantage of the work that's been done by others before us. I didn't invent the language of mathematics I use. I make little of my own food, none of my own clothes. Everything I do depends on other members of our species and the shoulders that we stand on. And a lot of us want to contribute something back to our species and to add something to the flow. It's about trying to express something in the only way that most of us know how. We try to use the talents we do have to express our deep feelings, to show our appreciation of all the contributions that came before us, and to add something to that flow. That's what has driven me. Yeah. I don't know what else to say other than that's like poetry, really.
Exactly. We're sat here with our MacBooks.
Yeah.
True. We're using various APIs.
Yeah.
To help power our business that helps other people. So yeah, we're
I mean, we
join us.
very much stand on the shoulders of everyone that's built things that we use.
To be honest, you sit here and say, we're doing that, but obviously we'd love to be in a situation where, imagine owning OpenAI right now. Imagine being Sam Altman and thinking, to be honest, that's probably going to be the biggest thing ever, like the biggest technology leap ever.
He's a cool guy, isn't he?
Ridiculous. I mean, you must go to bed at night so excited about what you just saw that day or something like.
Yeah, in their office.
Yeah, insane.
I mean, you think like how excited we get about what we've achieved in like using his product. It's so crazy.
And that's all we're doing is using his product.
And he's doing stuff that's allowing people to do that.
Insane. The amount of people it's going to change their life off.
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think we all have to acknowledge that. And, if you can be a part of that for other people, if you can be one of those giants, even if you've had to stand on the shoulders of others to get there, then go get them, kid.
Yeah, and it's probably, we could sit here now and say, it's probably really hard to come up with an idea like that now. But
it's always been hard.
Yeah,
it's always been hard.
It's always been hard.
Yeah.
I think someone said at the end of the 19th century that everything to be invented has been invented. But obviously, how wrong were they?
Yeah,
pretty wrong. The 21st, the 20th century, and now the 21st century. In a minute, there'll be some guy, just sitting there watching the telly, and all of a sudden, an idea's going to pop into his head, and he's going to start to get into work, and then in a year's time, it's going to be this multi-billion-dollar company that's changing the world, and it's like, well, why don't we think of that?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think there's plenty of ideas out there.
Yeah. Oh, the worst thing though is when you've thought of that, and then it happens, and you're like,
well, you only have to look at my idea that's in Slack.
I know.
There's one idea which was from many, many years ago, and I think it was about streaming games from across the internet.
Yeah,
so you don't have to use your own hardware. So you don't have to have like ridiculously good hardware in order to be able to stream games like Steam nowadays.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But like at the time,
you had to have all these like different boxes and stuff plugged into stuff.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have had the internet capacity to do it. The bandwidth wouldn't have been good enough to be able to stream games. But back then, it was like, I think that's a really cool idea, but like it's never going to work.
Yeah. Well, it's such a big idea. It's like, where do you even begin with it?
It's cool.
I guess a lot of it as well as to whether or not you start with an idea that you've got. It can be a bit overwhelming when you have a massive idea. Is think about who you could use, or like if you don't have any clue, then the answer is probably looking at something like an incubator sort of situation, where they can probably pair you up with people, support you, fund you, help with advertising, marketing, different areas that you can't do. In return for taking a cut.
Yeah.
I mean, that's as good as you're going to get, really. If you've got an idea and you've got the time and the inclination, then just go for it. And then last but not least, he talks about the constant refinement and perpetual motion. So You always have to keep pushing to innovate. Dylan could have sung protest songs forever and probably made a lot of money.
Bob Dylan.
Yeah, but he didn't. He had to move on, and when he did, by going electric in 1965, he alienated a lot of people. His 1966 Europe tour was his greatest. He would come on and do a set of acoustic guitar, and the audiences loved him. Then he brought out what became the band, and they would all do an electric set, and the audience sometimes booed. There was one point where he was about to sing Like a Rolling Stone, and someone in the audience yells, "Judas!" And then Dylan then says, "Play it fucking loud!" And they did. The Beatles were the same way. They kept evolving, moving, refining their art. That's what I've always tried to do. Keep moving. Otherwise, as Dylan says, if you're not busy being born, you're busy dying. Yep. So there you go. You've got to keep moving with it.
Yeah,
you've got to stick true to what you want to do. If you think it's right, you think it's right for a reason. Sometimes you're going to have these thoughts and you might be wrong. But if you really, truly know and understand your target user, your end user, and you're in their minds, or you know what is right for society, whichever your
or if it's something you really want for yourself
thing is, then stick to your guns.
And do something you're passionate about. It's the last final tip.
So do you think if you were to do that, but it was more about making money than making the world a better place, that you still count as an entrepreneur?
I think yes, because I think any businessman is an entrepreneur. To be able to just create something from scratch and someone will pay you for it, I think that makes you an entrepreneur by default.
For me, I think, the definition is having the get up and go and the what's the word? Like the taking the initiative to do things.
Yeah. And getting kicked in the balls along the way.
And still carrying on. There's a Rudyard Kipling quote in there somewhere, I reckon. But it was an interesting tweet anyway, I thought. Again, I'll put it in the description for the show. And if you get time, then also go and check out David Senra's podcast, Founders Podcast.
Yeah, and the question is, unless you make an apple, are you a real entrepreneur or not?
Yep.
Let us know in
the comments. Leave a comment in the description, as the Adrian Bliss said. All right, excellent. Well, thanks for tuning in and for listening, and we'll catch you guys in the next podcast.
Bye for now.
Bye.